Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will be discussing an MS degree on the 20th of July, 2026. As a beginning, we will illustrate some slides that I added for the discussion. First of all, the first slide, of course, shows the title and the supervisors and shows me 1956 to 1957. This is me in such a class. This class included only at that time 20 students. So it was a good thing at that time. This is the first slide that I had made to try to explore what are the mistakes that we always encounter during fixing thesis. First of all, of course, he forgot to mention the chapter or the surah and the verse of this surah. So, as he stated in his verse, وَقُلْ أَعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. In English, say Allah will see your deeds, and so will His messenger and the believers. These are the mistakes that I have encountered. First of all, whenever you write cannot, of course, you ought to write in such a way. I don't know, early hypogastric, it should be written this way. And this as the numbers that he made mistakes written in Arabic. Whenever you write a title through the thesis, you ought to write only the first name, not more than that. And of course, he misses the difference between plural and single, and of course some verbs innervates. It should be innervated. And of course, these are also two names. He ought to only mention the first title of the name. And whenever you have a figure through the paragraph through the thesis, you ought to put it beside the right figure. These are also other mistakes. Have a look. Whenever you ought to write the figure to give a hint about it through the thesis. You don't have to write the figure without mention it through the paragraph. And this is a point he used to repeat 10 minutes intraoperatively, 15, 10. So you don't have to repeat all this and just write it in such a way as you can see. And you ought to write, of course, good words to join sentence like however, nevertheless, and so forth. And here, of course, some words, of course, the main title is written in an English style, so you must take care of the English style. Of course, you must join tables or figures on as long as you are writing through the thesis. This is cesarean section. I don't know, you ought to write it in such a way, or it ought to be written in such a way. These are the however and so forth. And then, of course, he didn't show what's the meaning of double-blind study. The double-blind means that the doctor and the patient don't know what are the drug given to them. Of course, he wrote many things in the discussion which would be preferable to be written in the review. Of course, he also is repeating that the whole name. You ought to only put the first name. And whenever you begin a paragraph, suppose Jane et al. and then you complete the paragraph to the end, and then you repeat the author at the end. No need to repeat it at the end, just to mention it at the beginning of the paragraph as he made, but he ought to add the year. Of course, it's also this repetition of the name and techniques. He also the plural. He ought to put s, approaches also, cases. There is a wide space between words. Of course, English anesthesis in an English way style. All these are English style ischemia. Stabilize. It ought to be stabilizing. Have a look. Just moreover, also are the words that you can support your sentences. His summary was too much long, so I told him to minimize. Of course, the table was not mentioned through the paragraph. He just wrote it in a paper without giving hint about it through the paragraph. And he did mention the year after the author. English, written in English. All these are English way. You must ought to be very careful while writing the thesis, whether it's in English way or the American way. And you must join the figure to the tables concerning the paragraph. Now we come to the important data that he had collected. The Midodorine definitely protected the patient against hypotension during spinal anesthesia, which was given 1 hour after induction of anesthesia. And you can see from these figures after from 10 minutes, from 5 minutes till 20 minutes, the blood pressure was different. When you compare it with the control type, was much higher than that. So this means that there is a statistical significance improvement of Midodorine to protect the patient against the hypotensive effect of spinal. And this is a hint about what's the meaning of standard deviation. Of course, it is the square root of the sum. This is the item of the sum. And being brackets, we have the figure of the data minus the mean squared over the number of the data minus 1. This will give you the standard deviation. Through it, we can fulfill the standard the t-test, and so to show whether this is significant or not. This is the heart rate changes. Of course, the heart rate also was protected, as we know that Midodorine is only a alpha stimulus, so it does not affect the beta receptors. So it does not cause bradycardia, as you can see from the time in giving. And this is the hint about the normal distribution curve. We can see that it's made of a mean, and then we have a sigma, which is the standard deviation is spreading or the variation from the mean, and then we can calculate the percent of the first standard deviation, which is around 68%, and then when we take 2 standard deviation, it reaches around 95, and then when we reach to almost the end of the curve, it reaches around 99.7, and this also a hint about the standard deviation. These are nice important points that I had taken from his work. First of all, of course, all we know the Toofer line is the line that joins the uppermost part of the iliac crest, where we take it as a line to introduce our spinal needle. And then a nice hint about the permanent neurological injury that may occur, which is very rare, of course. The incidence around 4.2 per 100,000. So it is a minimal amount. So it's mainly countered by xylocaine, not Marcaine or other local anesthetics. You find a patient suffering of severe radicular back pain, burning sensation on the buttocks, and paresthesia. So this may make you care that it may had happened. Of course, the blood pressure that is decreased during spinal cesarean section, I'm sorry, range from 4.4, 7.4 till 74%. So it is a large number of percentage. Now, he mentioned, of course, what we call cafetinidine and thioadrenaline, which are a combination of, as you can see, noradrenaline and thiophyllene, or noradrenaline and thiophyllene. Of course, the FDA considers midodorine as a category C regarding effect on the mother. So this is why they had taken the drug from the manufacturer, and it's not used or not approved to be used in cesarean section. So we had made this thesis because we didn't make much study on the effect of it on the baby. And this is the midodrine, as you can see. It's made of three carbons. I'm going to increase this. It's mainly made of three carbons. It's attached, first of all, the phenol ring, as we can see, with an hydroxide at it. This area is responsible for the lipophilicity and the combination with the alpha receptors, and the other one on the other the end of the molecule. This is the part which contains amine, which is responsible for the catecholamine effect of the drug, and this is the part which we call it a bridge containing the chiral carbon, which is the carbon in the middle of the molecule, which gives the molecule either an L or D isomer. You see, so this is the part of the molecule, and whenever it's been subject to the liver enzymes, it's breaking down, taking this part in the middle, which contains the oxygen and the amide, leading to what we call the metabolite, which is called this glymidodirine, as you can see, after taking this part of the molecule. And this is the similarity between midodrine and noradrenaline, which is similar, containing the mesoxy moiety on the molecule, on the phenol ring. Now we come to some nice important points that I had taken from the internet. It was discovered in 1971, and then it was improved or accepted by the FDA on August 20, 2010. It's manufactured by a company called Shear PLC, but it was used at that time only to control the sympathetic dysfunction, and because of its not fulfillment of all the study, it was withdrawn from the market, and it was replaced by a generic drug. And this is the meaning of generic drug, as we had drug. I'm sorry. If we consider the acetaminophen is the generic form of the drug, which is tylenol. Of course, these are trials of using midodrine in septic shock, which was not that satisfactory, and in hepatorenal syndrome, because it causes, of course, splanchnic vasoconstriction and improves the control of the kidney regarding its control on potassium. Cirrhotic patients. If it is given in a normal patient, it will increase the blood pressure in this range from 10 to 30 millimeter mercury. It was a meaning of a pilot study that we take a couple of patients, and we begin to study this drug on it. And if we have a change in the results, we can complete the study. Of course, whenever I have a defect in the spinal cord injury, we can use Midodorine. It was being tested to increase spinal cord perfusion pressure. And these are some drugs that or also are considered as oral hypertensive drugs. Droxadopa, it's a long duration effect than Midodorine. It was used whenever there is a refractory hypotensive due after giving Midodorine. Also, this drug was given in intensive care to early wean the patient from the intensive care. So it was not that satisfied. And these are the different types of alpha stimulant used in anesthesia. Now we have the nice thing that he had mentioned, that the pulse index, it is a method to differentiate the pulse type blood flow to the non-pulse type blood flow. It uses something like a finger volume clip using the infrared technology. It's made of a cuff. This can differentiate between the effect of the drug on the venous vascular tone. The range of it is it is from 0.02% to 20% in the best situation. So this is what we call the clear sight system of Edward Life Science. Epidural anesthesia, of course, was given in a patient with a history of vasovagal syncope. Of course, you must take care of such a patient while giving epidural to support the circulation. Of course, the patient after hip surgery, they are in need of mobilization. So Midodorine can be used to protect the effect of hypotension after their movement. Of course, we can use it or instead of albumin in reducing morbidity and mortality among patients with refractory ascites. This is the effect of the drug on the teratogenicity and placenta transfer. Of course, it was made a study before. It's considered as what we call type C. That type C means that the drug was affecting the outcome of the offsprings of the animals. So this is why it is considered as type C. Though here it's not written that though it's written here that it has no teratogenic effect. Of course, diffusion of placenta has been reported, of course, because of its lipophilicity and minimal size of a molecule. No data to show that's been sent by the human milk. Of course, no, we didn't make much study on the effect on the baby regarding insomnia or excitement or restlessness. And this is the 3D shape of the molecule, and these are the packs of the Midodorine. It is an odorless white crystalline powder soluble in water. Of course, because it is in a hydrochloride form, and of course absorbed from the stomach because of its hydrochloride form, and sprangly soluble in methanol. This is the quink bevel that he had used during the study. Of course, you can see that it's not a pencil-like, like the Sprott or the Whitacre. And this is the bradycardia that it may affect the patient whenever he is having drugs as atrioventricular nodal blocking drugs, or having renal dysfunction, or having a sick sinus syndrome. So must care while giving the drugs in such circumstances. This is the G protein coupled receptor, which the drugs act on it, and we can see that it has receptor made of different parts, and it's attached with each other with what we call loops. So the ligand, when it reaches this receptors, it activates what we call the G protein coupled receptor, is made from alpha and beta and delta, as you can see. Whenever the ligand is being transferred through the receptor, the guanosine diphosphate is being shifted to guanosine triphosphate. This will affect proteins affecting the adenyl cyclase and phospholipase C, inducing the second messenger, as you can see, CMAMP or the IP3 or DAG. These all are the second messengers. This will induce cellular function, whether we induce calcium, increasing the tone of the muscles or whatever. All these are, and this is our steps, and this is another figure showing how it affects the receptor, leading to calcium, which increases, of course, the systemic vascular resistance and so forth. And this is the detail of the abbreviation I had mentioned, if you want to have a look. And this is a hint about the statistics. Why did he use the Shapiro-Wilk test? This is a test to choose whether you do a t-test of normalization, or use another test instead of it, as Mann-Whitney or Wilkinson. So this is the t-test. So he made a test, and he showed that the test can be used whenever I compare the two groups. So he used the t-test. I will show you later, and what is the meaning of this test. And of course, when we use chi-square test, he used this as a qualitative study. So whenever I want to compare the incidence of nausea among the two groups, we use this because it is a categorical. It is comparing nausea and vomiting, not numbers. You see. And these are the types of the tests. We have an independent or unpaired t-test. This was the meaning of that. Of course, we have an unpaired and we have a paired. We will show it later on. What's the meaning of unpaired? Unpaired means that I'm comparing two sets of data, and the paired means that one of these data I double tested. So suppose I'm going to compare two data. One of them, suppose the height of number of children of male in a class and females. This is an unpaired test. So if the second category or the first category, I'm going to double test suppose the females or the male. I'm going to compare the age related to the height of suppose. So we are doing a paired test. So this is what we call independent test. Of course, this is the way. It was the meaning of sample size. It was the meaning of the power to the 80. This is the hint about it. This is the meaning of EP information, epidemiological. Statistics is divided into two types. First of all, the descriptive statistics. You are just describing that, nothing more. The other one is called inferential statistics. This means that your data, you are comparing, making a correlation between the data. But the descriptives are just you are describing the data. And this, again, the one meaning of parametric and non-parametric. And this is whenever you want to compare three sets of groups, use the ANOVA test. And if the data are not well distributed, we use what we call Mann-Whitney or the Wilkinson test. This is the hint about the t-test. This is the normal distribution curve. The half of the right side goes to the positive, and the one on the left goes to the left. Of course, you must have at least 20 to 30 subjects, and the comparison must be comparable. The varied similar variance between the both. And this is the data. Suppose the data are around 30. And then you take the data to do what we call the t-test. And this is the t-test, x bar, standard deviation. We said before the number. and then we get a figure. We go to a special table where we have rows and as you can see, the downwards spread. We come to the line where we have the 0.05 magic number, and we try to cross the number we had gained here is 30 and 30 is 60. We minus it by 2. We get a figure. This figure we cross on this side, and then we cross the other side, and we reach to a number. If this number is less than the T, means that we will reject the null hypothesis, and we will say that we will accept the null we will reject the null hypothesis, and we will accept the other hypothesis. This is the what we call interpreting normal quantile plots. It is a quantity, you see. So if we put the data on a straight line, as you can see, and if the data is making some sort of a straight line, as you can see, we can use this data to compare between groups using the t-test. But if it is much deflected, we can use another test, as we said before. He used, of course, chi-square test to compare, suppose, categorical difference between the nausea and vomiting between two groups. It's simply this is the chi abbreviation. As you can see, it looks like an X, but this line is being inclined. This is the chi is the 20th number in the Greek alphabet, and we will find that it's made by the sum. On the upper part is the observed minus the expected or over the expected. What's the meaning of that? Suppose I'm going to flick a coin. As you can see, we have tail and heads. So what we expect? We expect that suppose I do it 100 times. We expect that 50 of them will be tail and 50 of them will be the other type. So suppose this flipping yield 26 and 47. Suppose, is this right, or it's subjective bias? Maybe something is wrong with the coin, or the way I'm flicking or tossing the coin. So this is a point that gives me a figure. This figure, I go to a special table. This table can tell me whether this flicking is normal, or this the number comparison between the both number is normal or abnormal. So this is a hint about the chi-square test. I want to mention something I forgot to tell you during the writing reference. Of course, you must go ahead in a sequel way in all of them, and you must mention, of course, whenever you mention a book, you must mention the editor, the where the place of the publisher and the place of the publishing, of course, the number of the pages and the chapter of the book. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.